It'd help if I turned the camera on.
Yeah, it would work a little better.
Okay.
Relationship with the clerk from the day she got here as an assistant to the day she resigned, and a high degree of flattery. When I told her I was leaving, she changed her date from August 1st to June 1st, just to compensate me. She's a good friend. Tim's a good man. He's worked hard. He's learning the same as you are, but he's a good guy. And I read the paper, but he was always honest and straight up with me, and I did appreciate that always. You know, there was many things. It's not easy to do it. I mean, you're serving 16,000 people, and they all want you.
About council clerk. In your remarks earlier tonight, you referred to recently resigned council clerk and retired, I think.
Right.
Gail Kalpac.
Right.
And a little emotional about that, John.
I spoke to her more, probably, and conservatively speaking, and I'm really, without exaggeration, probably 7 to 9 times a day at length, because she would call me. First of all, I have a vast institutional knowledge. I have a tremendous memory. I'm blessed with that. She would call me on matters, and then she would call me on other matters. And I went to her because I had decided in February, one of the dumbest things I did was not immediately come off the insurance. I should have gotten off immediately, but you know, I was advised differently, so I stick to it. But anyway, at that point, I knew that night I was in trouble in leadership. In fact, you asked me. I knew I was in trouble, and I didn't know what to do. Honestly,
In trouble in what way?
in respect that I wasn't enjoying the respect of the community. I wasn't enjoying the respect of my colleagues. They were disappointed because they were looking to me for guidance and to some way to get out of this pickle we're in. And everybody's running for cover, and I'm here deflecting the bullets. So I don't know what to do. So at that particular point, I talked to the clerk, and we talked about some things. But anyway, I knew I was in trouble. So then I stepped down, and she called me. She was bawling her eyes. As I said, we had a very close relationship. And then when I applied to the state then in February because of the insurance situation, I had to do it anyway by the end of this year. But I was paying $1,000. Now I'm paying $116. So there's a big difference. But I told her, I said, Gail, I'm going to leave at the end of May. And she said, well, I'm leaving the end of August, but I'm moving it up to June 1st. And she left, and that was the end of it. But,
in your discussions with the clerk, did she share with you her frustrations over the last year or so in the job?
There's no question. The thing is, and I think what's happening, it's a growing process. Our present law director, from the acumen of a lawyer, you're a lawyer yourself, you could be a perfect lawyer.
I'm an inactive lawyer.
Well, yeah, but still you're trained. You go to school, you learn. It can be, there's academic attorneys and there's practical attorneys. Courtroom experience, as I read in a paper today in a Suarez case, the man said the demeanor of Mr. Suarez's attorney convinced him. That's a showman, and that's what it's about. He's he's academically a very, very bright lawyer, but unfortunately we're dealing with emotion, and sometimes it's not black and white. Sometimes, and it's a learning curve. And for her, the clerk, we never had a full-time law director. We always had part-time, and some of her authority was usurped because it would just go on to him, things that she would normally have done, and she took that the wrong way. And it started to deteriorate beyond the point of, because I sat and talked to both of them, and they seemed to be, it was fine, everything was fine. But right now, unfortunately, there's a group of people that want his head. But it disrupts the whole operation. It's easier sometimes, like a child, to give it a cookie and say, go ahead, even though it's an hour before supper. Sometimes, instead of saying, I know I'm not going to give it to you, just give it to them. The law is not black and white. Our citizens are not. If we stonewall them, they're going to, and rightfully so. I mean, they're thinking that it's nefarious, which it isn't. But if I've got something and you want it, I won't give it to you. Why won't I give it to you? What's there?
Well, as far as you were concerned, Gail Kalpac was a terrific.
She was technically an excellent clerk. There's no question. She was meticulous. She did a good job. She was loyal to me to the nth, and she was that way. She respected me as the president of council, and I worked very closely with her, and she knew that. She knew how the constituents would call, and she knew within an hour I would answer their call. I answered a constituent call today. I went out, and I just said, I have no authority at all. I'm not an elected official. Let's talk about your problem. Let me get it to the right person. That's all they want. They don't care if I'm the mayor, I'm the president of council, I'm Martin Olson. They could care. Let's get my problem fixed.
But did the conversation ever come to a point it's either me or the law director?
Not to me, it wasn't. The biggest problem that nobody seemed to realize about Gail, her father, she's very, very close to her dad, who's in his 80s. He took ill, and her mother was ill and hospitalized. And unfortunately, the workload gathered up to the point where a couple of times she had plans to go see her family, and we held her over. And again, I go back to just saying, sometimes a little compassion goes a long way. But it was never said to me, either the law director or me. I mean, here's a woman that's 2 years away from 20 years of service. That's your highest. The difference in retirement is significant. So she had to be ready to go.
Is there a North Canton leader that you've seen to be a model leader over your years in Canton that you've looked to? Or is it John Snyder? Is John Snyder that leader?
I think I did a pretty good job.
Okay.
Darrell did a great job. Darrell but Darrell didn't have a lot of people skills. Darrell had a grand mind, still does. I learned a lot from Darrell. I learned a lot from Tom Treeden, Roy Batista, believe it or not, when Roy was in his prime. The fairness and the equity of those men, unbelievable. Just great.
So Mike Treeden was a law director, right?
Treeden was the law director.
Was he the best at?
He's one of the best. Brilliant man. Knew the law, knew his place. Was with Rutzel and Anders, a very, very bright guy. Roy Batista in his day, but Roy, Roy's a lot younger, and he served the solicitor 2 or 3 cities. I like to work with Roy. I had a good time. Going back, members of the council that I work with comes to mind. Timmy Morrow, very bright guy, extremely bright, witty, quick on his feet. Mike Miller, the administrator, didn't have a lot of people skills either, but was a very, very bright guy. I enjoyed working with him.
People skills are vitally important.
Vitally important.
Politics, right?
Mostly important. Without a person, I can teach anybody this job. Without a person, I used to tell Marcia that, without a personality, when you go to somebody's house and it's 6 feet of water in a basement, they could give a rat's ass if you're the president of council or if you're the clerk or sweeping the floor.
Would Tom Treeden be a good model for Tim Fox?
Absolutely. Tim Fox, and I say this, Tim, when you see this, I respectfully say this, you need to develop some people skills. It's not all black and white. Give a little. Just give a little. And, the law director is not supposed to be out in front orchestrating things. They're supposed to keep you out of trouble.
But is he taking his cues from council?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'd like to know, here's an instance here. How did you have one meeting in July when the charter specifically says it's a special meeting at that? The charter, if you read it, says council will hold 2 meetings a month.
So you think he's off on his own?
Well, or somebody's leading him. I don't know who, but he's either off the reservation somewhere. When I was here, I talked to him every day. He didn't make a move without talking to me. But to his credit, I got to say this: he doesn't have a clerk, so he's fudging along, trying to do the best he can.
Okay.
He doesn't have a clerk here; he's doing her job and his alone. And see what happens with this new clerk. We'll find out where things are and what it's about. But he's a good guy.